Hello, welcome to Replay Crew. I'm Janelle, and today I'm going to be putting some more layers on these pieces of watercolor paper. I've got various quinacridone colors mixed up. A nice quinacridone gold from Daniel Smith, and I got a permanent rose that uses quinacridone in its pigment makeup. So that pigment does some kind of fun things, and we're just going to experiment and turn some of these into the backgrounds that we like to use for the Pebble paintings. So I have spent the day going through my vintage paints and getting some things out of tubes. Uh, Sometimes the paint just gets dried up, and I literally cut the tube open and put them in a new container. So I've got paints that are in various stages. I've got another one over here that is just there's so much pigment. I hate to let it go to waste, and I've scraped what it could into a container, but there's still some of this beautiful ultramarine blue that is probably from the 70s or 80s, and it's just this beautiful dark pigment. Seems like ultramarine today is made with less pigment or less. Maybe it's just not as dark, but I thought that one was really appealing. So I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use some of this vermilion. I've got a whole brush load of it here. And of course, I've been fine all day. I sit down. Excuse me. I swear coughs will wait 3 days. Just till I'm on camera. So that vermilion is an azo pigment, and it's quite strong. It's got a lot of tinting strength. But I've already done a couple of pieces just using it as straight orange, so I want to modify that a little bit, and I'm just going to bring in some permanent rose. If I can ever get this rinsed out of my brush here. Boy, it just... I managed to just get clear up into the heel of my brush because I was using the brush to rework that paint. It had hardened into a cake, and I wanted to get some of it transferred into an empty half pan. And you can't do that when it's dried in a cake, so I was trying to get it reconstituted, and like I said, spent the afternoon playing with the pigments. So this beautiful rose color, and drop that in. Maybe take a little bit of that over to this quinacridone gold. And I think I want to let that go to nothing. It's just a lovely color. I want a little bit of a burnt umber here. There we go. It's almost a cinnamon orange color. I really am having a lot of fun with the quinacridone gold. That was a paint I've just picked up a couple of weeks ago. And I had worked with it in acrylic and just loved the luminous quality that it has. I discovered with watercolor, the way the pigment works in the washes, the pigment kind of floats out to the edge of the water, and it takes other things with it, which creates these really kind of wonderful, dreamy effects. And let me grab one. I was working on this afternoon. I did a wash of ultramarine blue over top of some quinacridone gold, and when the when the gold was re-wetted, it bloomed up through the ultramarine, and it created this beautiful dappled texture throughout here that is so much more interesting than just a flat wash of paint. So every time you get a new material, it's just a lot of fun to kind of play with it and see what kind of effects it has. And you can learn so much, and you can just have such an enjoyable time doing that. There's a bit of serendipity to how the pigments interact with each other. And I'm also going to drop in just maybe a bit of some brown. It's going with that fall kind of feel. Looks very splotchy, but it'll come out okay. Hello there, welcome in. Before I set this over to dry, I'm just going to give it a blast with the old water mister, and that is going to let those pigments just flow across the paper. I'm just going to touch in here with some of this quinacridone gold, and you can already see it start to drive the pigment to the edge of the water. It's such a fun bit of paint. It's just almost magical. All right, I'm going to set this one over to dry. Let's work with this one, shall we? Hello, Maya. Maya says she has a power nap is sneaking up on her. I've got indigo here, and I've dropped a little quinacridone gold into it. I wanted to see what that nice smooth vat dye indigo would do with a bit of quinacridone, stirring it up. I think that's part of what some of the granulating pigments use. To get some of those cool effects. So were you here, Maya, to when I was showing the tube of the ultramarine? Drag the whole thing in. Yeah. I dismantled a tube that was pretty dried out, and so I got started trying to reclaim the paint out of it. Not trying to, actually, reclaiming the paint out of it. So I think the next Pebble paintings are going to be, quite a few of them are going to be, have quite a bit of ultramarine in them. The other night when I went to do a Pebble painting, I realized I was really running low on backgrounds that were ready to go, so I thought I'd take some time and prep up some more of these backgrounds. So, how was your day? Maya says, your paint is like a science project. It really is today. Some days I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, and I come at it, and I'll think, yeah, I'm trying to definitely get that particular effect, and then there's other days where I just try to be willing to play a little bit. And then we discover all kinds of things that you just didn't even know were possible. So earlier today, Maya and I had a chance to just spend some studio time with each other, and Maya was demonstrating some of her granulating watercolors, and they're so much fun. I'm just was so inspired by that time. Not sure how this looks on camera, but there's a beautiful glow to it here. I expect it looks a little like mustard, but you have to trust me on this. There's a beautiful kind of a pinkish glow to it. Maya asks if the quinacridone gold from Daniel Smith is granulating. Um, I believe that it is, but don't hold me to that without Googling it. Well, it's not labeled for staining and granulating, but I think it does move in an interesting way on the paper. So I don't know if it's strictly granulating or if it, the pigment, instead of staying where dispersed in the water, if you add water to it, the gold pigment runs to the outside edges and it drives other pigments with it. So I don't know if that's strictly speaking granulating, but it's a really curious effect. And if I can just find a little square paper, let's see if we can. There we go. Ooh, we got the storm back in. I had a look at the news today and it said there was one of those bomb cyclone weather systems sitting off to the west of Oregon, and it sounds like it's moved in. It just got stuff blowing around outside. Alrighty. So I don't see, it looks smoother, although this is cardstock, so there's no texture to it all. But it doesn't look to me exactly like granulation. It just looks like the pigment moves in the water in an interesting way. Okay, so yeah, and Maya has made a comment that the Daniel Smith colors, they've got, that company makes some really, I'm trying to think of a word that's cool enough to describe how cool this paint is, but they've got lines of paints that just have marvelous effects with the granulating pigments. So, I mean, I always think Daniel Smith, and I think there's a little bit of magic to be found in the way their pigments are put together. Oh, I may or may not have had a gummy since, why not? Maya knows. Maya knows what day it is. I think this vermilion will look marvelous with this beautiful teal color. Yeah. I'm in one of those moods where everything is just, oh, it's cool. That's the only word that's working for me right now. That's okay. That's a that's a fine mood to be in. All right. So after that, oh, I've got it. Ah, I thought it was in camera. So I had that yellow sitting in here, and it just looked a little bit didn't look great. But I was just letting some of the ultramarine dissolve and mixed it in so I could get sort of a more of a lapis lazuli color, a little bit turquoisey. Oh yeah, isn't that pretty? So it went from ultramarine to this almost a color of like faded jeans. For whatever reason today, I'm just really feeling these sort of dreamy, misty, iridescent kind of color combinations. I was in a bit of an earth tone phase, so it's always kind of interesting to see what kind of colors you'll be feeling on any given day. If you ever pick up a seashell and hold it up to the light, even a simple mussel shell, there are these rainbow iridescent colors that get reflected. Really beautiful. So here's one from earlier. It's really delicate and almost like it kind of reminded me of spring and dyed Easter eggs and boy, it's quiet in here tonight, huh? So there's sort of a rainstorm going on outside, and I can just hear the rain splatter down onto the street. I actually really have always enjoyed the sound of rain. I like the way it sort of drowns out the cars and the city noises. I don't even know how we got these colors out of what I had in the palette, but it almost looks like a plum or a grape, that kind of bloom that they get. And there's almost a peachy green, if that's such a possible thing, in this plummy color. Yep. That one needs a little more dry time, I think. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was just feeling the ultramarine so much earlier. I just laid it right over a piece that had some pastel kind of green and yellow and peach and pink. So I'm not sure what I'll do with this one. Something different than, I probably won't draw rocks on it, but mm, hmm. Oh, one thing about a quiet chat night is we get a little bit of peaceful painting going. Mm. I got a beautiful grape color with the permanent rose and ultramarine and just a touch of the quinacridone gold. think it's about time I moved to a bigger, maybe a 6x6 square. I feel like I've got probably twice the paint I need for these 3-inch little pieces. Well, they're going quickly tonight. It's funny how some nights it seems to take me 20 minutes to get one done, and other nights they just sort of paint themselves. Yeah. Are you waking yourself up with the thump when the phone hits the floor there, Maya? Oh, I think I managed to mix a pretty good burnt orange color there with the, I put a little bit of burnt umber into the quinacridone gold. And I might have put just a touch of the indigo, or I'm not sure what I did. It was 10 minutes ago. Yep. I think that one's got enough paint for now. Well, I hope you guys are having fun. I am having fun. just cranking through these. So this is where we're starting. Some sort of just a pinky brown, a little bit of green, and gonna go with this indigo mixture. It's almost a gray-green. A little more water. This isn't my usual brush, but it's doing an okay job. So it feels a little bit small for my preferences, but I thought it might help to mix things up a little bit. It's kind of in a little bit of a rut. just not a day in the studio until you splattered ultramarine blue all over everything. You can't blame me. It really is quite beautiful. This is vermilion, or a viridian hue. It's a very emeraldy green. And tap in a little of that magic gold. See, it creates these areas where the pigment just blooms away from the center. So I think these will be quite interesting to draw pebbles on when they dry. And speaking of drawing pebbles, I think it's time to grab a blank and a pen and do a pebble drawing. I think I've worked my way through a pretty good stack of these blanks, so that was my goal for this evening on painting. Just give the brushes a good rinse. Oh, the onerous and tedious cleanup of watercolor. The paints are a bit to clean up. Brushes clean up pretty quick. Alrighty. Oh, I'm still wet. That one is mostly dry. Got the trusty waterproof pigment liner. Ugh. Yeah, it's just... Let's see what we can make out of this, shall we? Get myself a little elbow room here so I'm not up to my cuffs in ultramarine. Okay. This part of the process is actually fairly straightforward. After you've done a few of them, your eye works fairly well with your hand to see the places that might become a rock, see where those lines go. And then I just try to relax and let my hand follow the idea that my mind had about where those shapes should exist. I really enjoy these colors. They're so pretty. Not quite fall, but the gold and sort of peach color and this nice chocolatey brown. And I don't really go at a particular speed. There are times, if I feel rushed, I will try to slow down a bit, but each drawing seems to have its own speed. And each day our minds and our senses of sight and feel, all of it, it can be different on different days, so I just try to find a speed that allows me to relax and to feel comfortable in the chair I'm sitting in, where I'm not gripping the pen so tight that you ever grip your pens, pencils, whatever you're working with so tightly you can almost make your hand go numb. So I just want to find a pace where I'm in a nice rhythm and relaxed, not giving myself some sort of repetitive motion injury because I'm holding the instrument too tightly. I really like that effect of these occasional dull lines. Every once in a while it works really well. It doesn't work on all of them, but every now and again it just adds a sort of graphic element that's interesting to look at. It really is remarkable, isn't it? Because they can almost look deliberately placed. And you see the background before I start. Sometimes it's really confusing as to how is that going to turn into pebbles, but one at a time. Just one by one, they sort of just make themselves known to my mind's eye. Now, one of the tricks I've learned after doing it's probably not quite 100, but it's getting close. I've done quite a few of these drawings in the last few weeks and months. Where I've got a handful of a bright contrasting color, I do try to carefully outline those. In the finished drawing, that color will sort of stand out from everything else. And so I want to outline it and help it to do that. It really can give the final effect a lot of energy. I think when I first started out, I tried to merge that contrasting color into everything, and I think the finished effect is just a little bit more interesting when you go ahead and work with what's on the paper. So almost always I will try to put something in the background that stands out just so I can take advantage of that effect. Here's a background that demonstrates that pretty clearly. These golden browns are they're going to be very distinct from the green background. I haven't decided on this one if I'll do one more layer of color. It's got some really beautiful effects going on, and I just waiting for the inspiration to hit on that. Anyway, so if you define those ones that are bright and really stand out, you can sort of just ease your way through the rest of it without overthinking it too much. And it will hang together when you're done. Maya says she she would overthink it no matter what. And me too, which is part of why I started to do these mindfulness drawings. I I will quite often use them as a bit of a warm up exercise before I start painting, and when I sit down to do them, I do kind of take myself in hand and just um, try to keep the pen moving. Just just try to work through it, and there's something about getting your body in motion that can overcome the um, that desire to, or that, well, I don't think it's a desire, but sometimes our brain just wants to think about things, and it when you stop and allow that process to go on, it can paralyze your work. It can just stop you. And I know I'm not the only one who sat at my workbench for more than an hour um, thinking about what project I wanted to work on that day. Um, it Thinking can, can be a way to plan stuff out, but it can also be something that just is like a parking brake on your creative work. So when you notice that your brain is holding you hostage like that, something that just gets your hand moving can be a great way to break through that. For quite a long time, would uh, I would use a coloring book page. Boy, I get the stutters tonight. I apologize. Um, I like the kind of complex coloring books that are designed for people who have a little art experience. And I like to go through them and take the pages out. And after doing a few of those books, I'll tell you, I don't color the pages I don't like. I only color the pages I like. It's okay. So I take those out of the book and have, so I know that there's a stack of coloring pages that are all ones I like, and I'll just grab one of those out and I start working on that. And that was what I used for a sort of a warm up. That was just something that I knew that I could come to the workbench, come into the studio, grab one of those pages, grab a pencil, and start going. And then once you're going, it's a little bit easier to keep going. And while you're just coloring or drawing pebbles, your creative brain has a way of thinking about what it wants to do next. So do whatever it takes, use whatever tactic works for you to um, get you in motion, in creative motion, whether it's painting, whether it's sketching, or playing with a piece of um, I like to work with polymer clay sometimes, or just just anything. And avoid those things that have you take your hands away from your tools when you yourself, like day 3 or day 5 where you've gone to the studio and you haven't managed to get into the work, but you have managed to sort all of the drawers out and uh, rearrange the colored pencil filing system, and you know um, that that kind of stuff. It can be distracting and satisfying, but if you're like me, you could kind of fall down that sorting and organizing rabbit hole. Alrighty. Well, Maya, it looks like it's just you and me. I was uh, I was kind of watching the count there, and I thought I'd try and see how we did with more of a quiet illustration, and uh, what happened when I was quiet. It didn't, and what happened when I talked. It didn't seem to make much difference. So, yeah. Nice. Maya says, if I'm not feeling it, I sit on the couch with a coloring book, and before I know it, I am going to my painting table. There you go. That's exactly it. Yeah. So there was our pebble drawing for the evening. Got that. I managed to crank out quite a few backgrounds today. I did a couple of really bright and full coverage sort of backgrounds. Just was cranking through that ultramarine blue, trying to put some of that paint to good use. Mixed up some purples and variations on that quinacridone gold. Got some pastels. I think this is one of my favorites of the day. Got a whole stack of them over here on the drawing table. I like the softness of that one. That one's similar. These last three, they make me feel like I'm in an orchard or a vineyard. So this one was a little bit, it was a little bit scary looking when it was on the workbench, when it was wet, but those colors dried down and they softened, and they still let the peachy pink and the green show through. So I think that one's gonna be kind of fun to do a pebble drawing on. Do I cut up cardstock into the smaller squares? I do. And watercolor paper too. Well, that one's still drying, but I think it's got some jewel tone potential there. Got some nice turquoise and amber color coming through. Yeah, it does look like flowers. That had that nice sort of tealy bottle green, and then I just added a little bit of permanent rose to the ultramarine and got an almost not quite purple, just on the edge of purple sort of a color. And there's our fun guy with the splatters. So, I think that's enough work for one session. Thanks everybody who came and spent some time with us this evening. And thank you to Replay Crew. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you, Maya, for your steadfast presence in chat and for moderating. I really appreciate your presence and appreciate everything you do. Um, it's lovely to have you here. Yeah. Yep. One last look at the Pebble drawing for the evening. And we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for joining, and I hope you go make some art. Good night. You'd think I knew where that X button was by now. I swear they move it. All right. Bye.